So, as Paul said, I'm Viktor Nordstrom. I'm co-founder and CEO of Bevelity. We started this company a little bit more than a year ago. The project is older than that, but the company itself was founded October 19th last year, and we're active since officially for the Spanish government since November last year. So what we do is 3D animation and interactivity for the web and mobile. That means that we do everything in HTML5, specifically based on a technology called WebGL, which I don't know if you guys are aware of. And that's what we do. We are almost world champions at WebGL. And one of the most important things you should remember living in Barcelona is that WebGL is one of the powerhouses of WebGL in the world, if not the powerhouse, is Barcelona. You'll find the best talent of WebGL in the world in Barcelona. You don't have to go to Silicon Valley, you don't have to go anywhere. You go around the corner. And I'll give you a very specific example. The most famous WebGL experiments in the world are on Google experiments and Firefox experiments. Those are all made with an engine called 3.js, which was done in Vilanova la Geltrú, 800 meters from my house, by a guy called Ricardo. Forget Mr. Dukes. His name is Ricardo. So one of the myths I want to break today is you don't need to go to the Silicon Valley to find true talent and the real thing. So this is what we do actually. We've done a professional application. We target 3D professionals, and this is a professional editor. Are you guys gamers? Does anybody play video games or has tried to do a video game or anything similar? Well, most people will know about companies called Unreal or Unity, which are professional tools, which are very, very expensive. Well, this is a mini Unity that works from the browser. So what you do is you put in 3D models that you want to do, a house, a car, or whatever. You add reflections, which you can't really see here. You add lighting, which is the most important things, and shades, animation and interactivity, and any options you want to do. And what we do is you publish directly in an iframe. So you publish like if it was a Google map or a YouTube video on the web, and it's working. This just completely revolutionizes how you do interactive 3D content for the web and mobile, because it is web from the first moment. So how did we come about this? Well, the company was started by me and Daniel Iborra, and we've been working in each one of our fields for more than 10 years. Danny, he's a little bit younger than I am, but he's been actually working. He did his first video game when he was under 15 years old. So he's been trying to be an engineer since he was a teenager. In my case, I know nothing about technology except selling it. Okay, I've been selling technology for more than 10 years, but I'm not proficient at all, and I want to stay that way. I understand what it does for us, I understand what it does for a client, I know how it interacts, but I cannot find a file in a terminal. So outside of the UI, I'm an idiot. But what we've been doing, actually what characterizes us a little bit, we've been working for pretty big companies and smaller companies. I don't know if you guys can see. Is this? Which one of these?
Other one.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, we've been working for pretty big companies and also small companies. We're very typical entrepreneurs in the sense that we're frustrated entrepreneurs. Me a little bit more frustrated than Danny, but I worked for Fortune 500 companies like CA. Danny has worked for some of the largest gaming studios like Ubisoft and Grin. But then we started scaling down from large companies to smaller, until we founded our own company. We actually got to know each other in a company called Fluendo, which is actually a very small company, but world leaders in multimedia codecs here from Barcelona, working on a project. But I worked also for Open Bravo, which is kind of famous startup here from Pamplona here, which got 20 million euros in financing, but as we can say, the burn rate is the burn rate, so sometimes you can get as much money as you want. If you don't take care of it, things happen to you. But what we've had is the fortune to, in these companies, have really great customers. We work for awesome projects. In the case of Danny, he's done video games for Universal and Warner Brothers. I've had the fortune to sell software, worldwide contracts for National Geographic, Red Hat. I haven't put in here, but I've sold to IBM, which I personally think I should get a medal for, because I negotiated for more than 14 months every week, which I can tell you, you need a lot of patience for. But because we've done that, we've been able to work for really great projects, and we knew each other in this project. This is like an iTunes in 3D called Movida, which in the beginning was an open source project, and it had a lot of rather great stuff. And the main selling point is what it was immersive. You pressed on these buttons and things moved, and you moved in and out, and it was great. But it had a lot of challenges. The time to market to do this product was at least 2 years. A software product that takes 2 years to go to market, you've got a problem. The other thing is that the cost of it was huge. Just the licensing of the 3D engine was 350,000 euros. But also, we needed a team of almost 15 people programming. Then, we needed to program for each one. Because it was 3D, because the 3D industry is so fragmented, you need one different set of programmers for each one of the devices. That also skyrocketed the cost. But also, very, very important nowadays, you couldn't promote what we were doing in social media because it wasn't integrated at all. So, we said, there's got to be some tool out of there. We started looking for it, we started talking to everybody, talked to architects, anybody on anything to do with 3D. We talked to them to see if we could get a tool to do it. We found nothing. So we said, wait. If there's nothing to solve this problem, and everybody has the same problem, let's see how many people actually have this problem. Well, we found that there's about 25 million professionals that spend $15 billion of software to do this kind of things, and have this huge problem that it's slow, it's very complicated, it's very expensive, and it's really, really hard to get to market. And we found out also that if we just take the creative software, in other words, advertisement and CAD, that's this market. We're not even counting casual gaming, doing small little games. So we said, there's got to be a tool that's much easier to do this. And we realized there isn't, so we're going to do it. And this is what we've done. This is our tool. Our company is called Bevelity, but the tool is called Clever, and it's going to be released in December. And what we do is, we have a proprietary engine that we put on the cloud, and it's all based on HTML5. And that way, we solve all the problems in one stroke. So that's what we've done. And because I actually just included this slide, and I think it's a very good point that Vincent did, is talking about, and here's like the first thing that probably you're going to be looking at this. The first thing we had to look at was scalability versus profitability or quick revenue. We've bet very, very hard on scalability, but we've managed to do both at the same time. So this is what the product is going to be released as, but the technology behind it, we're licensing through OEM and affiliate programs. OEM means that you license something to another software company, and they put it inside, and they never know what's in it, but it's our technology. And then affiliate programs is something very cool, which is kind of it's actually an advertisement business model, but in our case, because we've done the tool on the web, instead of integrating an ad, we get users who actually become subscribers to our application. So it's a way to sell the actual application. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit our story and cover some of the points actually that Vincent talked about, telling our story. Everything started February 9th, 2011. We're sitting in the car, we identified this problem, and we said, okay, now what? So what do we do? Where do we even start? And what happened was, the first thing we had to get rid of our jobs, and that took a while, because especially in Danny's case, they wanted to fire immediately when I said I wanted to leave. That was not a problem. But Danny, because he's an engineer, it took at least 3 months before we could start the project. We started the first week of May, and we started it like this. This is my parents' living room. They were out, and I said, I'm going back home. And we put up all the gear. Everything was nice. We had, the Coke on the Coca-Cola on the table. We were ready to go. Everything's gonna la la la. And then obviously this happened, which you probably heard. And then after that happened a few times, this happened. That's Danny pissed off. Then this happened again. And then this. And then this. And then this. And we were doing that for about a month, okay? And that was our first iteration. Because our first product was supposed to be only on Mac and only sold on the Mac App Store. So it was a client-based application, not a cloud-based, not based on HTML5. Well, kind of, but that's what we were doing for a whole month, just failing, continuously failing on what would actually be a good thing. And after that month, the next phase came, which was, what I call where we wanted to do things. We wanted to talk to customers. The first thing we want to do, because I've been in sales, I do things that way. I always talk to customers first. We did both customer meetings and focus groups. And the other thing was, because we're doing software, the iterations are so quick, we know our burn rate was going to be kind of high, and the window of opportunity was pretty quick, because WebGL was defined that first week of May. That's when the official definition of the standard came. So we started this project, this first day the official definition started. And what we did those 8 months was this. Pretty much sit. We got a cheap place to stay. We sat in a room with no decoration and came up with the proof of concept. And from there we did 3 focus groups with the 3 general target markets that we wanted to talk to, which were advertising, engineers, and architects. And we had several meetings with them and kind of dreaming up what they would want us to do. And also what we try to do is try to get people who were influencers, who we later on could get aboard. It was a great plan, but they don't care about us. Now they do when it's going well. But, and then the other thing we did was flirt with investors a little bit. And that for me was a validation of one of the things is when you have a really good idea. I'm Swedish, we're Lutherans, so we think, we always feel guilty about something. And I wanted to know if we were crazy or not, because everything was just too good to be true. And the first thing we did was went to the most aggressive investor here in Barcelona, which in this case is at that time was Bevelity. And we said, okay, let's see if they even gave us a meeting. We went there and they offered us to invest. So we obviously said no, because if it's that easy, we should wait a little more and get a really good one, But that gave us the first sense that we were not as crazy as we thought, which was very, very important for us. So we decided to have an alpha release, which was a little bit of a development of that, and actually start here in La Salle Tecnova, which was we're really fortunate to do, because they've been very, very helpful. And we got a loan. So we got a little money so we could start doing what were dreaming of, and we kind of validated with the focus groups and the first thing. And that was kind of the first stage of iteration. And then comes the next stage, which is 2012, which I can only define with the word boom. That's what happened. In January, the first thing that happened was, this is Daddy. We released the beta, and we got a call from Sony saying, what are you guys doing in the next 2-3 weeks? And we said, well, we're going to try to jump over the fence and go to the Mobile Congress. And they said, okay, we invite you, but you need to do a demo for our phones. They released the Sony Xperia, and the 3D demo is actually what you see. Their production team are not very smart, so they wanted to film us really close, I don't know why. And that's the Sony Xperia with real-time WebGL working on it. It was the only prototype they had doing that. So we released the beta, and the first thing we got was Sony. And then we started thinking, okay, maybe we're not as crazy as we think. And that was really, really important. Then April and March, we said, okay, we have a little bit of money, let's spend a little money on really validating this and getting a real, at least taking a shot at going for a really big validation. So we attended two very big events in the United States, South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, and the Global Developers Conference in San Francisco. And one of the most important things also as an entrepreneur is you try to grab and not steal, but try to get as cheap things. We spent only 3,000 euros, which seems like a lot of money, and we spent 15 days in San Francisco, and I can tell you, only the ticket there, 2 people, and going to Austin and back, spending actually less than 3,000 euros. We lived at friends of friends' places. We did what it had to take, just not to take too much of risk financially, but to get this kind of stuff. After the GDC and Mobile Congress and South by Southwest, we had as beta testers Facebook, the development team for Facebook, Apple, Intel, Firefox, or Mozilla, Google, and the president of the Kronos Group, which is a guy at Google. Kronos Group are the guys who define WebGL as a standard, and are other standards as OpenGL. Most of these standards are used for graphic interfaces. The president of the Kronos Group is a beta tester of ours. The VP of AMD is a beta tester of ours. And how we did that is like Vicente said, echándole morro. That's the only way, okay? And after this, what we got was really an industry validation, because we started seeing what we could do with the technology, and we also saw that what we were doing was really valid. And we hadn't spent neither a lot of time, nor a lot of money at that point. So after that, we said, okay, what we need to do is do a product. We need to go to market. We can't just be teasing people. We have to validate it with real customers. But we knew it was going to take at least another 6 months of development, and we've actually been wrong, it's taken 8. But then the focus was product development and get a minimum viable product and focus on financing. That's the part that I do. I do everything that is not product development, actually. And what we did was focus on the things that would really give us value. And what gives us value at this point is hard cash. Okay? So we've been to every event you can think about during that period. We've been very lucky. We've been approached. This is like Banco Santander in Spain, but in Italy. We were offered to go to have offices at Lake Como. We were invited by the WebGL consortium to talk. That was really helpful, gives us a lot of credibility. But also an event here in Barcelona, Web Visions, which is not very, very big, but had very key advertising agencies there who really love what we do and been very, very helpful. Probably the coolest thing that happened was in July. Telefonica has a program for startups called WIDA, which you probably heard of. And we won the competition to get in, and we were even more aggressive there, because we actually went to Madrid and we said, if you accept us, we will only accept if we take us to Barcelona. They're like, what are you talking about, man? But when they see that you're that confident and you can deliver on what you're doing, people really respond. So that's another thing I actually want to stress is, if you believe in what you're doing, the first thing you have to do is very critical of what you're doing. But when you're that critical, you lose fear of saying, look, this what we're doing is really, really cool, and you can earn a lot of money. And that has helped us financially to date. We didn't get money at this point, and that's another thing, but that really helped the people who were interested in investing in us to say, okay, I don't want anybody else to invest, I'm going to invest. And that was very, very helpful. And then the next phase started. When we already had the investors, we were in an accelerator program that financed us. We continued doing this, and we were chosen top 50 startups in Europe, one of the top 50 startups in Europe by these Austrian guys, which doesn't mean we are one of the top 50, it means that they said so. The same thing with this event, which is called White Bull. And here actually White Bull was very, very cool. It was a smaller event here in Barcelona. And that was a further validation of what we did and how we were gonna do it. One of the most important things, we had 10 years of experience, but we didn't know anything about how to do a real startup. You probably know more on a theoretical level than what we do. What we knew was that, okay, we read a lot of books, we had a lot of working experience, but you never learn enough, and things change very, very quickly. And one of the coolest things was learning a lot of stuff, and also having very big American VCs telling you, if you want to have us invest in you, this is what you need to do. And that was very, very helpful. And it's very, very helpful also because when you have something that's interesting, they'll talk to you. Don't be afraid of going up to a huge company. The first VC I ever spoke to about us was Google Ventures. I almost had to change my underwear afterwards, but they opened the door and I had a meeting for 2.5 hours. It was scheduled for 20 minutes. But the most important thing that we did during this phase was traction. We started getting revenue from our customers, and especially from the United States. Okay? Our market is not, we're a global company, so the first thing we need to go is to have people interested in the markets which are the biggest ones. In this case, it's the United States, because that's where we have the highest amount of 3D professionals, and the people are ready to pay. And this was a big landmark for us, because it really showed that what we were doing wasn't just a really good idea. It was something that actually had true value. So today, after we've done WIDA and we've got a little money and we're actually earning our own money, not a lot, but we're actually earning our own money. What we've done is we've actually guaranteed us finishing the project and releasing the project with what's called a seed capital round, which is usually, you guys have probably heard, I don't know if you haven't, but usually they say when you start your business, you start with the 3 Fs when you want to recruit money: friends, family, and fools. That's the first round, and then the next one is when you actually convince somebody. There's a lot of scales to it, but it's pretty much you go up this way, and then they take a larger and larger piece of your company, pretty much. And now in December, we're going to release the product. And after that point, this is going to happen. This is also a big milestone for us. Now in December, we're going to participate in a European consortium. We've been invited, actually, to the European consortium, and we have big industrial partners now. We have W3C, which are the guys, the World Wide Web Consortium, Intel, and Walt Disney. And that's actually one of the coolest things I've ever experienced, was having somebody call you and say, could you please be part of our project? Because what you do really, is really cool. Obviously, I can't understand it because I didn't do the technical part, but Daniel has not processed the information yet, I can tell you. And then obviously we have a very interesting thing with Telefonica, because Telefonica, they're releasing actually a phone with a Firefox operating system, which is 100% based on HTML5. And what we do is the content we do works directly on that phone. So it's a very, very cool thing. And that kind of adds up to a little bit what Chris was saying also regarding when you sell, when you do something, you can think of doing it directly to customers, but also there's a business-to-business aspect, which helps you multiply what you're doing much more. And you piggy wagon on top of what they're doing, and they sell what you do for you, which is very, very efficient. But after that, pretty much what we're going to do, we have a very specific roadmap, turning the product from what can do ads and smaller things in 3D by the end of the year, being a casual gaming platform. That would be the maximum point. At that point, somebody's going to be able to sign up to our website and be able to, without programming a single line of code if they don't want to do it, do a little Angry Birds in 3D, or like the Nintendo games, the small Nintendo games in 3D. And then, as a company, the next milestones will be presenting at the Mobile Congress this time with Telefonica and the phone. Then it seems, this is not confirmed yet, we'll be presenting as one of the top startups at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. So it's the same 2 events, but this time we're actually presenting. We're not invited to a party and demoing something. They're actually presenting us, which is very, very cool. And after that, it's very aggressive. In 2014, we're going to be making about 5 million euros a year on the business that we have. And with that, I say thank you very much. I'm open to any questions you guys have. My profile is completely different, so if you have questions about how selling stuff to people, that's what I've done the last 15 years, so shoot.
Well, first of all, congratulations for the presentation. It was really interesting. First, I want to talk about how you have solved the problem with WebGL, because I actually read something about there is some security problem around it. I don't know if it has been solved or not.
The problem was solved, actually. The security problem comes a little bit from a political thing. Microsoft, it comes from Microsoft. Microsoft said that there was a danger with the fact that you could be speaking directly to the GPU and then la 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 la. I can't go into that because I don't understand it. But pretty much it's the same security risk that Flash has. Immediately after that, the new version of the standard was released with certain blockage systems, which means that risk doesn't exist. The thing is that both Microsoft and Apple are using that as an excuse for Explorer not to adopt it, and for iOS Safari for iOS not adopting it. But in our case, we've done a fallback. So when we publish an iframe, if the device doesn't support WebGL, there's something else that goes in, and I can't tell you how it works because then I had to kill you. And so people can have a similar experience without being WebGL. Actually, you stress a point there, which is very important. That's actually one of the coolest things with web technology is that because things are not installed on hardware, you can mix and fix bugs and everything in real time. So it works everywhere. You fix the problem for everybody at the same time, and that's actually a very, very convenient thing in business, I can tell you.
Other questions? See, we change languages and this is what happens. Is this your first startup?
Mine, yes. It's the fourth one I work for, but it's the first that's mine. I was a little afraid of doing it. I've been a frustrated entrepreneur since, I don't know, I can't remember when. But it's kind of weird because what happened, I work in sales and there's no real education for sales. So when I started my professional career, I started out as a musician in an advertisement agency because I wanted to be like an artist or whatever, you know. Well, actually a rock star to be more specific. But I started marketing. And so I would always try to get a marketing job because I thought that was serious. Sales, that was stupid. And then one day I realized that those guys were making 3 times the money I was making, and I said, okay, I'm going to change this.
So how's it been? Why did you start working for startups? It sounds like you made a decision to work for startups, and now you've made a decision to do your own.
Yes, it's kind of a personal story, but that week, February 9th, it sounds more dramatic than it actually is. I was diagnosed with diabetes. I got into a fight with my boss because she said I wasn't performing, and that was 5 days after she'd paid me the bonus for tripling my targets, which kind of started making me feel, why fight against things that are just that way? Just, if you don't like how it is, change it yourself. And then actually my brother-in-law died. He was an entrepreneur. And I said, you know, why am I trying to make up excuses? So I just decided that day, I'm going to go for it. And also, when you're an entrepreneur, I'm a little bit older than you guys. I mean, when you're younger, there's not so much stuff at risk. I'm 37, married, you know, kids, not yet, but you know, the pressure's there. You know. So it's a little bit harder, but I've been very lucky. My family, my wife has been really, really supportive, and also I think it's if you want to do it, just do it. But sometimes I also defend what I've done. I haven't done my own project because I haven't worked for anything which I really, really believed in. The first job I really believed in was Open Bravo, actually, which is obviously, it survived, but it's not a success.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it survived for now, but it's not a huge success.
Okay, great.
For making the minimum viable product, how many people you needed to make that minimum viable product? It was only you and the lead, or?
Danny did about 80%, and we had 2 freelancers that did certain things, integrations with third-party stuff, but that's pretty much what we did. And also, but I'd like to stress a little bit from the earlier presentation that the most important thing to do a minimum viable product is to dare to do it, to dare to make mistakes. I have a very big ego, and I'm also Taurus, you know, so I'm very stubborn. So accepting to make mistakes for me was a huge thing, because I always wanted to make everything perfect the first time. Forget about that. Just make mistakes and learn.
So, from your understanding, or your point, you mean that first you have to make that minimum viable product, or make the buzz for it before, because he also said that, well, Dropbox made it kind of a buzz at first. They don't launch directly the product, but then as they get feedback, they launch the final product. What do you think is best? To have that minimum viable product, or just having the buzz and the need, or make the need for the people for that kind of application?
Well, make the need. You can't make a need, you discover it. It's very, very important to understand it. And I would, if you can, it depends a lot on what kind of, if you're doing a B2C product, you can get a lot of information and not spoiling your market with maybe 100 users. If you're doing Dropbox, for example, it has 100 guys, nobody cares. But they give you a lot of critical information. But if you're doing a B2B product and you only have potentially 15 customers, I can understand that you want to be a little bit more careful. But as soon as you can get direct feedback for somebody who's going to pay for it, that's really, really important. And also, also another important thing with ego is when you see somebody paying for something you think is stupid, take the money and run. Because if it has value, that's more important than fulfilling your ego. And that's something we've had to struggle with a lot. Yes?
When you were saying about your possible clients, you were focusing on CAD, computer assisted design, and advertising on top of video games. But I also think there is the digital publishing market, interactive digital ebooks for tablets, and that is about to boom. You plan on
yeah, actually we include that in the creative software market because they are usually people who've been using Adobe's Creative Suite or that kind of stuff, and we kind of define that in those terms. And so we include that in digital publishing in that. Actually, one of the big things that we're going to be doing is how we work from a marketing strategy point of view. So we're going to market smaller segments depending on certain formats and certain applications, then getting certain metrics and then scaling from there. And one of them is well, it's not a small group, it's Creative Suite users. So we're integrating with Photoshop's 3D, and so that you can publish 3D content. Yeah. I don't know.
Siempre se ha dicho que los ingenieros no saben vender sus productos y por eso normalmente necesitan un poco de una persona en este caso que ayude a vender los productos. En el caso del contrario, de alguien que se dedica directamente a la venta, ¿no te sientes un poco limitado en el momento? Ya sé que tienes a tu compañero, ¿no?, que siempre se va a cargar de las preguntas técnicas, pero siempre habrá algún momento que no tendrás que ir a hablar con un cliente. ¿Qué pasa cuando te hacen esas preguntas más técnicas que tú no sabes cómo contestar?
Esto es una muy buena pregunta y no hay ningún problema. De hecho, voy a usar tu pregunta para decir otra cosa que también me pareció súper bueno de tu presentación. Lo peor que puedes hacer como comercial es mentir. O sea, la fama de que los comerciales están... Sí, a veces tenemos una versión de la verdad un poco exagerada, optimista, pero no puedes mentir. Y sobre todo, no te metas a intentar decir cosas que no tienes ni idea. Entonces, una vez que has aceptado eso, no te da cosa hablar con nadie, porque ya es importante. También hay que comprender que la labor que haces es tan importante, o sea, son cosas complementarias. Es como una vinagreta sin aceite o sin vinagre no sirve para nada. Entonces es un poco eso. Entonces, sabiendo eso, yo no tengo problema ahí. Y a lo que quería ir, que es súper importante cuando haces una startup, es que los roles estén cubiertos, porque hay tareas que hay que hacer. Tú puedes ser, yo conozco, de los mejores comerciales que yo conozco son ingenieros, de hecho. Y yo creo que es más una cuestión que te gusta hacerlo, te gusta ilusionar a otras personas, te gusta... Y hay gente que, por mucho que seas ingeniero, no significa que no te gusta hacer eso, ¿sabes? Al igual que, por ejemplo, la persona que tenemos trabajando para nosotros, de freelance, que es un tío que tiene 4 startups detrás suyo, es un tío que hizo Bellas Artes y es programador web. Él aprendió por su cuenta y eso es lo que él hace. Y él ha hecho portales enormes. Entonces es un poco... no tiene que intimidarte, sino en el mundo real los diplomas caen un poco atrás cuando viene la seriedad. El 90% de los casos los diplomas están ahí, pero a veces no. Entonces hay que cubrir esas necesidades y cuando se empieza a trabajar con esto, el rol del comercial muchas veces, sobre todo en empresas tecnológicas, nos olvidamos. Queremos, bueno, ya cogeremos a alguien. No, es mejor tenerlo dentro. Y a nosotros, por ejemplo, en el tema de la aceleradora de Guaira, es una cosa que ha sido una gran ventaja, de que tenemos súper claro que uno hace una cosa y otro. Y, o sea, hay muchas cosas que hacemos los dos, decidimos sobre todo los dos, colaboramos abiertamente los dos, y ahora los 4, porque somos 4 en realidad ahora, pero los roles están definidos. O sea, no hay un tío que tiene que estar vendiendo y cuando viene un cliente se encarga de hablar con el cliente para que el que está programando no deje de programar. Y igual con lo otro, para que el que está vendiendo no deje de vender.
¿Uno
Sí.
más?
¿Podrías decir algún error del cual has aprendido?
Hostia.
Bueno,
¿Cuánto tenemos?
más significante.
Hostia.
Cuando empezasteis con...
Yo creo que nos hemos equivocado en dos cosas que podían haber y hemos tenido suerte de que no se ha tumbado el proyecto por eso. Uno, creo que deberíamos haber sacado una versión de pago antes. Tenemos que haber empezado a vender ya hace 6 meses. Porque hubiésemos tenido más datos para minimizar el potencial de cagada. Ahora, en diciembre, salimos no a ciegas, pero la validación que tenemos son de players muy grandes, no de un tío en su casa que está dispuesto a pagar $20 al mes, ¿sabes? Entonces esto es una. Creo que quizás hemos cometido un error también con propiedad intelectual. Como solo tenemos los brazos y las manos que tenemos, hemos aparcado el tema de la patente, de patentar muchas de las cosas. Entonces, nosotros tenemos registrado todo esto en Estados Unidos, tenemos un patent pending de lo que sacamos, pero no estamos pudiendo sacar todas las funcionalidades porque aún no las hemos patentado. Entonces, te diré en 6 meses si nos roban todo el código y estamos...
¿El tema de las patentes por dinero? ¿Porque no llegáis
No, no llegamos por horas. O sea, yo soy el que trabaja menos y trabajo 12 horas al día. O sea, sí, y incluye fines de semana. Incluyendo trabajo, o sea, despertarme a las 5 de la mañana y hacer un PowerPoint y después irme a dormir otra vez un sábado. Porque me despertaba, hostia, estoy por la pum. Suena mucho más enfermo, bueno, quizás es igual de enfermizo como suena, pero para mí suena peor de lo que en realidad es. O sea, yo nunca me lo he pasado tan bien en toda mi vida como estos últimos años y medio. O sea, trabajando, nunca he trabajado tan duro, nunca he estado tan comprometido. Y esto es un poquito lo que, tu pregunta, ¿por qué no? Yo creo que a nivel como emprendedor me tendría que haber dado cuenta hace años de que esto es lo que yo quería hacer. Porque yo soy un tío un poco radical. Entonces yo hago todo sí o no. Y yo he estado cobrando mucho dinero en multinacionales muy grandes y dedicando emocionalmente el 15% de lo que podía dedicar. O sea, cayéndose el boli, oye, he vendido por muchos millones, pero podría haber vendido por más. Pero ahora soy mucho más efectivo.
Bueno, pues